Sometimes that's all you need.
We are back. It's time now for our weekly basketball coverage, and with that, we'll hand off to Jacob.
The weekly basketball coverage. The NBA is NBAing. While I could do another whatever gimmicky thing to keep talking about the
Let's break down the Nick Claxton pushes Luka video again.
That one's funny. Shout out to
we got new
Dalton Connect for
the half-ass
attempt.
I don't know if you've seen that yet.
Yeah,
I think it was Jaylen Brown pushed SGA tonight to the ground.
Oh, I haven't seen that tonight. There was another one tonight where the Plumlee and Steven Adams ended up hugging it out on the court. So yeah, everyone's just tired of playing basketball right now. They're like, we know who sucks, we know who's good. Can we just move on? This is the game. It's fun for the GMs. The GMs are having a great time.
That works this way. I don't understand it, but
well, I think it's the business of basketball has changed more. I think in hockey, I don't know how they've been able to kind of make a whole season worth it. Maybe the point system is an answer.
Oh, never mind.
But this is just the doldrums, and I think because the trade deadline really does sort of solidify and finalize rosters, and buyouts can sort of adjust them, but they can't really take a team overboard. We do sort of know who's involved and who isn't. The play-in makes it more interesting in a way, but then unfortunately you have a situation like Dallas and Phoenix are in, where we both kind of want to put these two teams to sleep. But then, they're star players. You want to give them a chance. You want to see Anthony Davis play a game again, right?
That they're going to be in a play-in at least.
I mean, they're stuck. Yeah, one of those two teams is in. It's playing chicken at this point. So, I mean, part of me is still not mad because I think the play-in was built for people who watch basketball too much, and that's okay. I think that's a good thing to reward your fans with. I think the players don't love it, but I don't. It's more money, and again, that's why these guys say yes to a lot of this goofy shit that they don't really like playing 82 games still. And so, yeah, I mean, we're always going to have the doldrums. So 2 minutes on the doldrums, more minutes on the doldrums potentially to come. But for now, we're going to talk about what people are playing.
While we're here, let's just go ahead and.
Oh, do you have some altercation videos?
Look on the left side of your screen here.
Yeah, I see
them around there.
That is Jaylen.
There's Jaylen Brown, SGA.
Did you go bald recently? Oh no, I see.
Not as bad. Not as bad as the Claxton one.
No, and that's not bad at all. SGA flop. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm serious. SGA does that all the time, and a lot of NBA players do. I only saw
it for half a second on my phone. I didn't.
Yeah, no, Jaylen Brown, honestly, not guilty in the court of my opinion. There you go. I've seen that a million times, especially with that player. And he's not the only one, so I'm not about to make it an SGA rant. That's just some bullshit that NBA players do, and the NBA does a really bad job of actually taking out of the regular season. They do the other side. Now, the other part to the Luka thing before we actually move on, Luka, that was in front of a ref. And a part of me does also wonder if Luka is starting to understand, I really think we're going to test this Lakers get the call theory a lot with Luka. Because, man, he pisses them off a lot. As much as they get the benefit for the shenanigans reasons, he is actively trying to make those people hate him on a daily basis. Still,
well, that's the thing. I mean, then we talk about this in hockey a lot, where when games start to get chippy and actually dirty and dangerous, where it's like the refs cause this by letting too much happen, and you see this in soccer, you're seeing in basketball now more in the last 10 or plus years, where guys have to flop because the refs aren't calling stuff. Like, Luka gets beat up so much. I mean,
do not disrespect the 6 months that we called flopping.
Yeah,
please.
And in hockey, they have an embellishment call, but it always goes like someone will foul someone, and then they'll call the foul and the embellishment. It's like, what if it's an embellishment? How was it a foul? But
I guess maybe that's where the legislative nature of America is maybe hurting the NBA from making a clear and easy decision on fixing the game, because
who knows how it'll adjust if Luka stays in
I
LA
personally
for a while.
I can only bring this solace to people because it's what I've either convinced myself or truly believe. I don't know which one yet, but a lot of this just doesn't continue through the second season, and that's what crowns champions. And like ultimately it's annoying because it's mostly annoying because you spend a whole season where it's like 82 is too much. There's definitely bad basketball. There's also an amazing amount of basketball. There's also a lot of great young players blossoming that are the next generation. There's young teams turning into potential title contenders. There's a lot of just interesting things happening, but a lot of times it's just the same conversations, and the NBA isn't really doing a good job of negating that by continuing to let people do whatever they want to do with the flops, especially. And I mean, I don't know. Legislating it doesn't feel that hard. If you could do it for 6 months, it feels like you could have done it for longer. So I don't know. I think they're always going to default to the referees, and I think the referees are always going to be unfair and play the game of, does this player realize that the regular season and the postseason are two different things? Like, because a lot of players actually don't. A lot of players really don't get that concept. Like, I could sit down in front of a decent portion of these guys, and they would look at me or call me an idiot, But it's the facts. Like, it's historically always been the case. Yeah, there's your ref point of view.
Reference, yeah.
And then Dalton Connect, does it play long enough to see Dalton Connect kind of try?
This one doesn't, no.
Okay. So, like, my only thoughts on how I would handle that if I was JJ is, I don't remember who was on the court. I would definitely, if Markieff, if you want to come off the bench, we can take the suspension.
You got 12 to 14 guys over there.
I'm just saying, you're not playing anytime soon. But anyway,
the Mavs, you're not down to your.
I personally,
your G League bench for your NBA team.
I would take Dalton Connect in, and I would say, hey, man, every time someone does that to Luka, think about them as Rob Pelinka. Go get your lick back that way. Honestly, I would.
I think that's all the NBA wanted to force you to talk about.
No, that's fair.
Steph Castle, Rookie of the Year. Mark it down.
That's actually, I think maybe the awards will be the next thing we come to, because the Rookie of the Year is about to be a very controversial one, I feel. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of division in that one. Yeah, because I think Ricochet has a really good resume. It's just going to be semantics, depending on which one you think is better. Yeah. Yeah, that one I think is going to be interesting to talk about. But we will do that one more in depth when I actually put together and look at the way the numbers have changed. We're going to talk about draft prospects that are going to be playing in March, okay? Well, they already kind of still are. The bracket's not set, so we really don't know who's playing on both sides, even though at this point bracketology does basically help us know who's in and out. I was going to come with 5 players each, but I'm not trying to fool anybody. This is when I start watching a lot of the college kids. I mean, get older in life, you got more shit to do. That's already enough. And then when you do want to enjoy sports, you kind of you lean towards the things you favor, right? And right now, I'm going to tune into a basketball game if I can, and that's pretty much it for a second. The Rangers are starting up. Stars about to be the playoffs.
The college basketball product has just been weak for a while, so
it's just a different version of basketball, and I really applaud those fans for enjoying it the way they do. It's a lot of camaraderie. It's a lot of like community, and I love that about it. It's almost always better atmospheres than what we get in the NBA game, except for some of the bigger, more historic markets. They really show out. But there's a lot of teams that I wish had even an ounce of college energy in the building. And the game is technically a more interesting one if you really want to learn basketball. I would agree. But it does take a lot of the romance and the flair of, I think, basketball and what the NBA has done
shots.
for it. Yeah, I mean, the shooting isn't going to be great. So, but then it's a lot of sets, passing, right? So then you're just constantly talking about, you're talking about kids learning and running complex sets, because that is the way the advantage is had in that structure.
I mean, just NBA teams struggle to field 12 guys that are all really good, and that's a fraction of what the NCAA is trying to do. So the talent pool is just so little.
Yeah.
Because of the one and dones, people aren't going to college for 4 years.
But you find that
can't develop, that kind of thing.
You find that a lot of I find that my theory, and this isn't necessarily the most educated opinion, because like I just admitted, I don't watch a lot of college basketball ever until March. I mean, I'll watch retroactively tape of the guys that will be in the NBA as much as I can find, but like I'm not really gonna go. It's just not gonna be a part of my life much. The zone is probably the biggest thing that I think a lot of people bitch about it but it's so successful that why would these coaches not run the zone? So like I hear how
I think
people
they should
feel,
focus
but
on shooting first.
yeah, and I think kids would bust the zone more. I don't think it's a talent issue like you were saying in total. I think it is a basketball IQ issue. I think there's a
And
lot of Division 1 basketball players that are talented, but like I think that there is still an ecosystem there where there's a lot of basketball players, and this is always true. It'll always be true no matter how much I wish I could wish it away. It will always be there will be tall guys who just kind of have to play basketball, even though they don't want to, don't enjoy it, don't have any, like, don't want to put any effort into it. Society just won't let them live peacefully. They just are forced to do it, right? And it's
to be fair,
unfortunate.
if
I
you're
don't like
that
it.
big, like there's only so many things. Like that's one of your best options. Like if you're
I
physically
hear it,
capable of doing that, go ahead and
but
do it because
and I hear it, and especially when it comes to
the
getting
rest
an
of your life
education.
is so uncomfortable that you need that step up on money later.
Paying for your education is such an important step to the life right now. I don't blame anyone for just getting by for that solely. But then if you're talking about guys actually reaching their fullest potential, not even just the NBA, playing in one of the next best leagues, whatever, having a 10-year career where you still can earn a lot of money playing basketball professionally, those guys just, again, they just, there is a difference in those guys. Like I think Tony Mitchell is always going to be my favorite example because I saw it with my own two eyes. Like this guy was one of the most impressive, prospects, physical framework. Like you put him in 2K, that's exactly what you want. But the guy just, I went to one UNT game and I instantly knew this wasn't the guy. Like, I mean, the Missouri thing had already happened. There's a lot of other things, but I mean, it was the Sun Belt at the time. It was incredible. I mean, I was watching him just not put in effort. I'm like, it's there. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why don't you want to eat right now? Like, do you not enjoy this? And yes, I don't think he did.
Basketball's weird in that, at least of the four major sports, I think it's the one that lends to more individualism and less team focus.
But the team is
Which
still the most important part. It's the great irony.
Depends on what you're looking for. Yeah,
It's a balance. Like you
I
have
don't
to
think
understand
Carmelo would ever say that.
exactly. But where is Carmelo? Like, does that not reflect in Carmelo's success and failure?
It does, but as the league keeps growing, so it's just
No,
for whatever reason, basketball doesn't. It's the antithesis of hockey, where the name on the front is the most important thing. That's the only thing that matters.
yeah. I mean, little soccer. That's why it tries to
And
mirror
that's why
soccer.
college basketball, especially, is in this weird spot where you got a bunch of kids who've been growing up through AAU, being told they're God's gift to Earth, and now you got some coach trying to tell them to play in a system. They're like, "I'm gonna be in the NBA next year."
And you have to remember that these teams are like ecosystems as well, right? So there's teams that are seriously basketball programs that are dead serious about recruiting, and maybe they'll take on less talented or they won't pay players because they know they have a proven
some of these
success
teams will
record.
actually build out 3 and 4 year
But
players, and they do good job. They don't usually win a title, but they'll be competitive into the second or third round of the
well,
tournament.
no, I mean some of those. It's the teams that can mix. It's the guys who can figure out how to get 5-star role players.
UConn,
If you can
Duke,
get 5-star role
Kentucky,
players, that's where you
Baylor.
get the best. That's where you get the best middle ground. But then there's a lot of AAU teams quietly existing in the college basketball. I mean, it's only quiet to the outer world because we don't care that much. But like Texas Longhorns basketball is an AAU program, and I defy someone to prove to me, other than the Chris Beard years, which I do admit, Chris Beard had a plan for the program that did look more like the formula, and it's why he's successful, regardless of if he's a piece of shit or not.
Speaking of, Texas beat Vanderbilt today in the SEC tournament in the first round. I don't know who they're playing next.
Well, they're going to need it. I did not cover the Longhorns because I just did not feel like they got to win the tourney basically.
Oh, they got to play Missouri tomorrow.
Yeah,
number 7 Missouri in the SEC tournament.
See. Yeah, I don't actually know who's the best SEC team either at this point.
Number 1 right now is Auburn. I think they're going to end up being in a 1 seed.
And exactly, that's a great situation where Bruce Pearl can recruit guys, but he really plays to a system. He does well on the 4 stars. He gets just enough 5 stars to get that top end talent there. It's a good formula, even though he's also kind of a piece of shit. There's a
And
theme in
then,
college basketball too. Don't love that.
and that kind of plays out across a lot of your
I
high
think it's.
dollar environments, be it sports,
I don't
media,
disagree. I just think that we're
politics.
drastically underselling how many people with actual awful rap sheets are currently head coaches in college game. It's
It's a
actually
lot
kind of
easier to
remarkable.
hide in college basketball
It is
than football for
incredible
sure.
how many we've done, and it's been a trend of the last 5 years where they're just all these guys are just getting second chances. Some of them were like Bruce Pearl. I think he just got caught up violating shit at Tennessee. I think he was just breaking NCAA rules. At this point, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah, it's a whole different game.
So
Just for reference, the SEC women's tournament ended with South Carolina beating Texas.
yeah, how did the what was the
That's
close? How did Texas go?
It was 64-45. 64-45 was that game.
Yeah, Scar is funny, dude. They just play with people, bro.
They've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the last 11 SEC women's tournaments. So
yeah, because that's talent and that's a hell of a coach and a hell of a program. That's just
Texas,
the trifecta.
Texas
That's
finished with the same record as South Carolina in the regular season in the conference.
I told you, that team is nasty.
Texas women's a team to look out for in the tournament. That's all I'm saying.
They're in the future. I definitely think the Longhorns are potentially the next striking team
if they can get Aaliyah Chavez.
Well, I mean, I think that they probably will. I mean, look, I think this is going to be.
Where else is she going to go?
No, I mean, I do think that Texas is in a really good spot right now because South Carolina's had a hell of a run, but it is potential that Dawn Staley could want to move on. It's potential that she could just want to retire, whatever it is. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily there. She enjoys her job. It's one of the best jobs in all the sports. As super successful as she is, so wouldn't be surprised. But we'll move into we'll start with the ladies' side of the bracket. We're just going to talk about two players because I'm definitely not going to pretend to break down a lot of people who are going to be future role players in the WNBA. And I don't mean that as a disrespectful way to say things. I mean that it's just the way the WNBA is currently with talent, and it's getting better. So there's a good chance that maybe this is one of the first drafts where we see more deep level draft picks become big time players. Not that it hasn't happened in the past. It's not the regular. You usually get 1 to 2 really top end prospects a season in this kind of draft, right? And a lot of these other girls may get cut as first round picks. The expansion should help.
Paige Buckets.
Yeah. You start with Paige Beckers here, right? She's everything. She is the next women's basketball star, at least for the moment. It's a great succession we're having at this point. And seriously,
until the Allisons buy the wings and trade her to the Sparks.
And so there's also the rumors that Paige is going to control her own destiny, and that maybe she doesn't like the Wings organization. But I think there's also good logic to think that misinformation in the WNBA could be higher than other places because it is a lot of Stan accounts. The Stan account to media ratio is not good. So I do worry a little bit about how well things are being reported.
Actual beat reporters giving you.
Yeah, well, college women's basketball very well covered, so it's not the worst because she is a prospect there, but she has a lot of Stan accounts. She is going to be a bit of a cultural phenomenon in the way Caitlin Clark was. And the way that, it's not even Juju Watkins it could arguably be bigger than both of them. And that's not to shortchange the women that came before them at all, so it's just a very talented time. UConn's fucking amazing again. They should, I believe they're the favorites, odds on going into the tournament, right? I think they're loaded as hell per usual. Paige this is her last year. If I remember, she had a year where she tore a knee or something like that. And I think that kind of stopped her from one of the years they probably should have got one of the titles.
TCU is up there. Am I looking at the right thing?
Yeah, here? TCU. Yeah, TCU women. Haley Van Lith has gone from more than just being known for Caitlin Clark, dropping buckets on her. She's
okay. I've got according to ESPN, UConn's favorite, South Carolina's a close second. Then you got a bunch with UCLA, Notre Dame, Texas, USC, and then it starts getting more spread out with LSU, TCU, Tennessee. That's everyone who's under 100 to 1.
You see, Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend to be able to break those groups down. You did say USC was one of those.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and
They
so
are
that'd be the second one we're going to, because unfortunately
6th or 7th best odds.
we are not ready to talk about Juju Watkins' WNBA status. That is a year away, unfortunately.
We got Kiki Iriafin,
I believe.
Yeah.
But that is who we'll
sounding
be
it out.
discussing. Yes, she is the second in command there. I bring her up because really that's where – so the Notre Dame's got a couple of guards to be looking for. Otherwise, there's a French player coming up for the W's, kind of jostling for the top
Dominique
5 after
Malonga.
Page. Yes.
She's damn 6'6". Are you kidding me?
So, yeah, and that's kind of where I was going to go with Kiki Arifin here. From what I understand, historically, the bigs have always run the W, right? That makes sense. The way women's basketball is played, it definitely makes sense, right? Or has been played historically. Asia Wilson's currently the best player in the game. That always is usually a trendsetter in the league as well. So the bigs are still arguably more important. But Caitlin Clark is certainly rewriting that theory. Sabrina Ionescu before her, Sue Bird, obviously, Diana Taurasi. We've seen plenty of evidence of great guard play, but now we're seeing more evidence of something maybe that's a phenomenon, or maybe a movement, a real movement of a wave of players, because they just all seem to fit this mold, right? And it's actually funny too, right? Because we've added the racial component to this, as everything does. And obviously Caitlin and Paige are white girls. Then you have Juju coming up as a black woman, and then potentially the successor to that being a Hispanic woman. I think that's very interesting, just from a women's basketball perspective, how that's happened.
You got Dominique Malonga, who Tony Parker calls the female Victor Wembanyama. She's French Cameroonite.
Yeah, that's same as Joel, but Joel didn't want to play for them. Yeah, so I mean, maybe that's the part of it too. There's plenty of talent out there. I can't tell you the college game. I definitely can't tell you the French prospects either. No, the international ones.
No, she plays for Tony Parker's, or she did play for Tony Parker's team. Yeah, now she's on loan to some other team, but
nice. So yeah, and then she might be drafting stash too, depending on how
19. Yeah.
So yeah, the lazy breakdown of Kiki is basically, if the bigs are important, then she should go too for the most part. But there is basically a conventional wisdom that she's a good, not great player, I guess, is more or less the criticism that I feel. And I guess I watch her play, and it does feel like it's less skill and more size at times. So I can see where maybe that's coming from, just at a glance.
You know about Tahina Pow. She's Samoan, looking to go in the top 10 of the draft. So
interesting.
You might have heard her name. South Carolina.
Oh, she's Scars. Yeah. So and yeah, actually,
Samoan
Scar
and Toklawan.
Scar not having anyone who's in that top prospect category is weird too. But I shout out to Don Staley. It doesn't matter. The engine keeps turning.
And her uncle is a former NFL lineman. Not that one we've ever heard of, but
I mean, that's still cool. Shit. All right.
She's got it. She's got the blood. She's
I guess
the what are they called? What do they call them in the WWE? All the Samoans.
Oh, I don't remember. That's a Caesar question.
Yeah.
What are the Samoans?
The bloodline. Thank you.
Sorry.
The bloodline. Okay. I was like,
trying to figure out what, or the tribe.
Bree Hall.
Chief. Yeah.
Tribal chief is Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see who you mentioned. Oh, Joyce Edwards. I believe I've heard her name quite a bit on the cyber web. And then Bree Hall, I believe, is one of their better players.
I don't have Bree Hall. She must not be up for the draft this year.
She's a senior, so I don't know. Maybe they just South Carolina does that. Those girls they'll underrate their small guards, and then Don Staley makes them scrappy and ends up being great value.
Any of these W mock drafts that I'm looking at right now, but
that's the hard part too. Is how many of these people do I trust? Especially when I'm clicking on ESPN, I'm like, NBA draft room. Well, about you, Chief.
I'm looking at NBA Draft Room, Bleacher Report, and Swish Appeal.
Yeah, that's what sucks, man. It's just not I don't know if there's a trustworthy W outlet like that. I think you really have to trust the forums more with that one still. I really do. that's the lady stuff. I'm not going to pretend like I have the answers. Those are just the two ladies who have been in the running for top 2 picks in a while. That's notable. I mean, everyone's going to talk about Paige. She's very good. She's very fun. I do think she's kind of Sue Bird meets Diana Taurasi in a way, where she has a very elegant, pure basketball game, but she's also an absolute menace to society on the basketball court. Maybe not quite Diana's level. Diana's probably the greatest of all time when it comes to being just a on cue dickhead. Like, it's really comes natural to her in a way that's very difficult for others to get close to. But yeah, I mean, she's going to be fun to watch. She's going to be a very entertaining basketball player at maximum. And I don't think there's any reason she wouldn't be a Dallas Wing if that is, to be true. I really don't.
We'll know in about a month, April 14th.
It's important, again, to remember, yes, they're not historically a great franchise. They don't have ownership that a lot of people are proud of. They don't have a lot of facilities.
They have a lot of 1-1s. You don't want your franchise to have a lot of 1-1s.
Yeah. So basically, the things I would say are positive. They decided to take Kurt Miller, who I know absolutely does not go 1-1 with the ideology of the owners at all. Kurt Miller is a very openly gay man and a very big time advocate, and he's always used his platform in similar ways as Greg Popovich. They hired him to be the general manager of this team. I think that says a lot about them understanding the assignment of give the keys to the car to someone competent, get the fuck out of the way. And that's the biggest task you could ever ask an ownership to understand. If that's true, that's awesome. What's even better, Kay Bailey Hutchison's getting redone, and they're going to be the center of attention for it. They're going to be the only team there.
Is that Dallas proper?
Yes, that is literally downtown, and it's actually something I'm very proud of the city for. It's going to connect South Oak Cliff in a way that has not been done in a long time, and a lot of people will argue that has hurt the economy in Oak Cliff and why you see such a drastic wealth decrease when you cross the highway.
That's
so shout out to Dallas for doing what they were supposed to do a long time ago and connecting something over the highway that's both beautiful for the residents of the city, awesome for tourism. We already host so many like big Comic-Con things, furry conventions. They love that shit. They love Kay Bailey.
God. Yeah.
Oh my God. They book Kay Bailey out regularly.
Oh, dude, no. One time, because you mentioned that, I was going to my barber who the Plaza of America's building. That's where he cuts out. Well, the hotel that's located in the building has a convention center, has a little convention hall, and I just remember walking, and I just see somebody on one of the levels in a full furry suit. I'm like, what the fucking?
Oh yeah, so many times. Yeah. Yeah, I used to really, when I lived in downtown, I would walk a lot. It was just one of, didn't know how many times I'd ever do that in my life. So it was just one of those habits I got into. Oh my God. Yeah, there was a lot of furry conventions.
I do remember
Hutchinson is where they had that fight, that cheerleader.
Yes, they recently were just on the news.
They knocked over poles and everyone thought it was gunshots.
Dude, you know what's funny is I shouldn't have done it, but I had to click on the Facebook and I saw somebody talking about it. And they were like, we know what we heard. We know what happened.
No. I circling back to the furry thing, I do remember one thing in particular involving you, Becky. I remember, I don't know if it was during my first semester with the fraternity or the following semester, but I remember you specifically telling me you had a project where you were you had to write like a report on furries or something like that.
Yeah, if anyone wants to know how far I am into the bag of inclusivity and how much I will say yes to anything to get something done and not have to deal with conflict, I had a random assignment paired up. I think it was communications class, like a really basic class where you just gen pop, you know what I mean? And yeah, I got stuck with a group that was, not of my choice. I think that was my fault for being kind of a fuckhead student. And one of the people a part of it was adamant, and it actually wasn't furries, it was bronies.
Oh,
that's
bronies.
Way more specific.
Yeah.
I feel
So
like
I
that's a
had to
subset.
write. I did have to research and write a report, and I actually
Bronies
think
has
I
this
kept that
weird,
somewhere because it was
this
so
weird,
funny.
almost alpha bro edge to it though that furries don't have. Bronies,
I
it's out there with like ICP. Not that they're the same people, but like they're just like such a niche community.
I learned something about the political world that day because I looked at these other people that I'd never met in my world, and I was like, "Hey, do y'all want to get a grade in this and get the fuck out of here? Because this dude is stubborn, and I don't think he's got the social skills to be like, you know what I'm saying? So like, let's just, hey, we're gonna learn something. Who knows what it is? It's not entirely sexual. It has to go to another level for sexual. Now, are a lot of bronies sexual about it? That's up for them to state their story. From what I understand, there is enough of it that's non-sexual to where you can at least investigate it, but don't go deep. Do not
I'd
go
say
deep.
yeah, like the
Surface level, man.
the mainstream conventions aren't going to be a bunch of people humping each other, so
Yeah.
you can go to that.
Yeah. So it is an interesting world. You know, I think that we have a lot of fish to fry in this country. But you know, I do still stand by everybody's individual rights. Everybody should care about everyone's
not
individual
bothering
rights,
me.
right? No, that's my thing. Any attack on someone's individual rights is an attack on yours, in my opinion. So I
For
think
sure.
I try to hold that up as much as I can. And even if I completely don't get it, but I didn't. Look, I got a grade. I passed the class. We're better off for
The facts. Yes.
Now let's move.
Got you 90 seconds of content on a podcast in 2025.
If you clip that, who knows what the world will do with it? At least UNT. I feel like
what if the algorithm
I feel like there's a lot of
down?
people like me that went to UNT at some point and probably have similar stories where they're like, you know what? I just wanted to get that grade. I just wanted to get through that shit. And look, we made a decision.
Listen, this wasn't at UNT. This was at a community college that I took for summer courses. But it was a English 2 class, right? We had to do like this group project, and it could be on any like political topic out of this whole list that we were given, right? And me being like the gung-ho, I don't know, 20-year-old, 19, 20-year-old, I was like, yo, let's do one on prostitution, right? And so we had to take a stance. We had to take a stance in our presentation. So I was like, yo, what if we're pro-prostitution? And the reason I was all gung-ho about it is I just one time I had figured out how to use PowerPoint and how to add audio to the PowerPoint. And so I was like, it's hot out here for a pimp. Just wanted to play that one song to start the presentation. I just wanted to do it for the bit.
Just single-handedly setting back the sex workers movement.
What do you mean? I did so much research.
It's a bit juvenile in retrospect, but it is funny in the moment, unfortunately.
It was funny in the moment. I will say I could have handled it a little bit more professionally, but also Mike, my frontal lobe hadn't developed yet. You got to forgive me for that.
I also feel obligated to say that I am also the same individual who's chosen in these general population classes to cover George Bush growing weed, and how he created the modern workforce, which is just a wild part of history and slavery. And just, yeah, it's just an interesting thing to understand about the world. It's not a beautiful thing, but it's probably worth looking into if you're interested in that sort of thing. And then the other one is the reclamation of Josh Hamilton. And that couldn't be more embarrassing for two different reasons, right? It didn't work out. And I was the corny kid writing about sports when I should have been challenging myself, you know, in that situation. It was not a context that anyone was going to help me write better about sports. So it should not have involved sports. It was a bad forum. It was not the forum for that.
Well, I guess the idea there is if you can get someone to care, even though they don't like sports, then you're doing it right?
Yeah, but it's just sports writing really is different, and I think that there has been a cultural divide historically between sports writing, you know, and actual literature. And I think it was an English 2 class or something. And I think that I just had a pretentious motherfucker, you know? And so, look, I still feel like it was corny as shit all these years later. I should have, and it was the first thing I learned when I got to journalism school is everybody before me was like, they were like, what are you trying to be? They were like, I want to be a sports journalist. I want to be a sports journalist. I want to be a sports journalist. I was like, fuck, man. I guess I'm trying to cover the news. I'm trying to cover everything. Like,
I'm trying to have a job. I'm trying to pay off these loans.
oh, it cracked me up though. Yeah, there's college. We could definitely do a podcast on the millennial college experience. Got plenty on that.
I don't think I have much. I didn't really go.
But the fact is that you really have a lot of insight. But we still need other people here. We need people who went to my favorite genre of millennial, post grade school education is the ones that did the accelerated school and then just went straight into working. That pipeline is an interesting one because it's high variability. I've known people that did that, made bank.
High floor. I would say it's a high floor.
No people that did that ended up selling Cutco.
That knives.
The floor ceiling ratio is tough. Yeah. My mom's still mad at me for signing up for that.
What is Cutco?
They had to bring the knife presentation and sell a knife, and if they didn't buy the knife,
I sat through an interview for one of those jobs.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's modern. Like searching for jobs is a lot of learning that those people will code the wording of those in a billion different ways just to get you in the door.
Yeah,
you have to learn a lot of how to fix that. Oh, all right.
What do you got on the men's?
We're on the men's side. Everyone knows Cooper Flagg. This is what we're watching shitty basketball for. Duke is the number 1 seed, I think, or one of the potential number 1 seeds, I think. His lazy comp right now, and I stole this from Jonathan Wasserman. This is actually a credible guy. Used to work for ESPN, now he works for the league's official media stuff. Franz Wagner and Jalen Johnson. I thought that was a pretty funny thing because it was way more realistic than you usually get on these comps. Yeah. And I was like, kind of fun. It was always so realistic that I was like, damn, bro, I think it could be a little bit. I think like Franz Wagner, yeah, I get it. But like Jalen can shoot, so I guess Jalen Johnson, we just haven't seen enough.
Yeah, the idea is that he's like a better version of the combination of them. Basically, is hopefully what you're looking for. Yeah,
but Cooper
that's
Flagg
not how people take it when you put out a comp that isn't LeBron James.
Right. Yeah. Right. And no, it was so reasonable that I was like, oh no, yeah. Well, but maybe you're too low. But right idea,
Like
and maybe he's right.
He's an actually level-headed, reasonable ball knower. He'd be like, sounds good. Like, I'd love to be those guys.
Yeah, no, and I think Cooper Flagg is realistic, and I think he understands his shooting is not good enough, which is really the case with a lot of these kids in this draft class. Is there's just a lot of kids that don't seem to have shown a lot of evidence of great shooting. And I think that
Duke is number 1 right now.
Yeah, and so I think for Duke, if he does that, it's at this point it's legacy for Cooper. Get you that Duke title, especially the first under the new regime, and you're the face of the new regime moving forward. Even though you'll move on to the NBA, it's very possible that he's stuck in North Carolina, right? Like it's very likely the Charlotte Hornets get that pick.
We're trying, bud.
I think it's. I mean, it's always up to Adam Silver and the Angel of Stern. The Angel of Stern shall always look upon the NBA draft, in my opinion. But we'll see when we get there.
What we got right now? Who's got the odds? Do you think it's Charlotte?
I feel like they'll give it to Charlotte.
Detroit, Washington are your.
But I already told you.
Worst. Charlotte, Portland in the next tier, San Antonio in the next tier.
Yeah. So honestly, I told
you got to keep losing, bud.
It's and you're probably right. Did y'all beat the Mavs tonight? The only thing is though, I always will believe in the Angel of Stern because he basically admitted it and laughed about it at every chance he got, and I don't think Silver wouldn't do exactly the same. If you could rig the lottery and keep it this big aloof game, you don't do it all the time. But if you have a franchise that needs to be saved,
it's also it's like they have to also it has to be set up for them to be there.
Absolutely.
That's why you can't give the Lakers the first pick every year because they're never there.
Look, get real, get on the timeline, and you will be rewarded.
It is also funny to think that anyone would ever be pushing for a San Antonio franchise to be successful, but
it's funny because I think not only is San Antonio a cheat code because it was able to grab the international audience in a different way than other teams were in certain ways, like a wide net. It casts a wide net. China obviously loves the Rockets and the Warriors in a very interesting way. Japan loves the Warriors. You'll probably see a lot of Warriors stuff in Japan. But ultimately,
Is that just, I guess, Steph?
yeah, that's just been a lot of the stuff. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, the the gods will always look upon the franchises that need it the most. And San Antonio was in a weird position, and it was time for them to get something beyond mediocre because it's a bigger league now. Spurs need to have their centerpiece if we're going to justify a San Antonio market. We don't want to get rid of San Antonio.
We've gotten our third
at all.
Our top 3 best players ever through the number 1 pick with the lottery. So
I'm just saying,
no disrespect to the Iceman because I just never got to see him play, so I don't really know where to put him. But
right, no, and that's fair. But again, it's just we don't want to see the Spurs go defunct. No one does. It's literally it would make the NBA far worse. And it's not like it'd be possible, but it's like imagine the array if they just never won.
Houston and Dallas. Like, what is San Antonio?
Well, it's history. No, it's nostalgia. It's history.
Well, now it's built in, but
yeah, but I think maybe there's an argument to if the Duncan.
I guess the question is the Tim Duncan one, and that's one where you could say the league definitely didn't cheat because Tim Duncan didn't go to Boston. So
but again, Boston had an interesting run though, and I do think that the legacy franchises can sometimes be punished for their actions. Knicks.
And because they're going to make money either way.
Yes, that's also a part of it. Like if you're going to follow the conspiracy, I shall say. And I subscribe that theory every day.
I didn't realize Robinson was only the 3rd ever lottery first pick.
Oh my God! Don't give me a Ja Morant dagger and let me see that they're playing Utah tonight. I do not care. Mike Tomlin voice. Okay. So
who else after Cooper Flag?
Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, same team, same problem, right?
I'm gonna be a scumbag here. Dylan Harper.
Yeah.
Definitely a porn star with almost that exact name. Don't worry about it. Just add an I after the end.
Well, she's going to have to work on her.
But don't Google that on your...
No, that's what I was about to say. They're going to have to work on their SEO because my boy's taking over the cyber
that's
streets.
Good. That's good for him. Because when I just typed his name, I'm getting the results for the female star.
Interesting. Yeah, Rutgers is in a position where they basically have to win the Big Ten to even get in. They were awful for most of the season, despite having 2 guys who might go 2 and 3.
He probably spells his name. He probably spells his name like a boy would, right?
That's Dylan.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, that makes sense. The lazy comps here again. Wasserman was like, I'm going to be realistic with you. Dylan Harper, he's been the better player. Ace Bailey was the higher prospect coming into this, but Dylan Harper has played his way into the 2 slot, maybe even the 1 slot, depending on who drafts. They're calling him Kobe White, De'Aaron Fox, or Jalen Brunson. So
is he actually Ron Harper's son?
Is this one? See, now after the Max Christie thing, I just don't. I don't assume anymore.
According to Wikipedia.
Okay, yes, it is Ron Harper's son, which is awesome. Actually, he does look like Ron Harper. Like, hold on. Fuck.
But he's not Ron Harper Jr.
No, Ron Harper Jr. is in the NBA already.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or has been a part of the NBA.
Okay,
to some
fair
extent.
enough.
Yeah.
Ron Harper is definitely a guy that I only know of because he was in one of the first basketball games I ever got for PlayStation.
Ron Harper is a very unsung part of NBA history. He has actually a very massive role in NBA history.
Yeah, 4 years in Cleveland and 5 years for the Clippers is not in an era where no one cared.
Yeah, but it was the other stuff that is a little more important.
What, the Bulls and Lakers? What did they ever do?
Yeah, I think that Bulls stint more than that Lakers stint specifically. Though the Lakers stint is important.
Got 1 ring there.
Well, so he would have been the Emmitt Smith to their like rebuilding of the culture in LA. You know what I mean? Like they brought him in as Phil Jackson's old head to kind of get that shit going. You know?
Yeah, that was the year. No, he came in the year they won.
Yeah, he played. Like I think he was a start. Was he a starter? But
he would have been. Yeah,
but he would have been. That was like the last year he was useful, right?
And then he played like half the season the next year.
They got it for a year.
Yeah,
though.
he won titles in his last 5 years. That's funny.
Yeah, that's a fucking hell of a career? And Ron Harper was like, you don't.
Oh, sorry, 5 of his last 6 years.
You don't. Basically, a lot of the reason why it's important is you can't run the triangle the way that people think they can, because you have Michael Jordan clones or someone who can do that. You also need Ron Harper. You also need, like, there's 3 parts to the triangle, guys. It's still a 5. It's player like offense, but 3 guys have to communicate and be able to do 3 different things interchangeably, essentially. And Ron Harper was very underrated.
Probably the best episode of Ted Lasso is whenever he thinks he discovers the triangle offense. It's very funny. But continue.
Well, I give them credit if they get into detail of the triangle, or did they just try to like try to fudge around it?
I'll send you the link, the couple links to it later. But yeah,
that's funny.
He at least thinks he's on mushrooms at the time. So.
Oh, okay. I see. Well, that would be even more impressive if he was.
And he's at an American restaurant in England where they're doing like American bits. So it's a whole thing.
I see. Yeah, no, the triangle is difficult to master. It's not that hard to explain. That's a common misconception. It's basically
all it is just move. If you don't have the ball, move. And then
it's basically 3 players. It's depending on who's set up and how it's running. 2 guys are more or less just going to be dirty work guys, and 3, it's really a 3. It becomes a 3-on-3 game if the 3 players can all play and coexist within that triangle offense. You're basically just sectioning the court off, and then But it's also been sort of outdated because basketball's advanced a metric fuck ton.
Just too many athletes out there.
Sometimes these dudes just fucking pull up on you and drill like 7 in a row now.
And then now we're getting the weird Jokic Luka era of just like these guys are slow, fast, big and small at the same time. I don't know what's going on.
I think a lot of basketball theory is finally catching up to football theory in plays, where there is a much more robust playbook that teams must master if they want to be the best. They have to have a diverse portfolio of all these different things now.
And unfortunately, like 26 of them rely on ISO ball. So
well. Yeah, it's the secret of like there's just like 8 coaches in the league that understand this, and the rest are trying to teach the rest of the players that don't want to learn it.
We could say this about the NFL with GMs, where you got Howie Roseman, who's like, yeah, you need to build an offensive and defensive line. And then other teams are like, ooh, let me get this wide receiver for $90 million.
Oh, so true. But yeah, okay. Then Ace Bailey, he's been disappointing, hasn't shot well. This is still Rutgers. We're actually going to get to one Baylor kid, then we'll wrap up. Yeah, his comps are funny because Jonathan Wasserman clearly knows who Ace Bailey is in his mind. Brandon Miller, Michael Porter Jr., and Rashard Lewis. That means you're tall, and your job is to stand there and shoot, boy. Don't do anything else. Don't have any more fun. Please stand there and shoot. And the corner man is a tough job in the NBA because these guys believe that they are way more than corner men.
His dad played at Houston. That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, Ace Bailey, I think that's going to be an interesting one. I'm rooting for Rutgers. I always want to see more NBA prospects.
His aunt was part of Team USA 96 Olympic gold medal team. So
Ace Bailey?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean,
both his parents played college basketball, and yeah, his aunt also.
I love that.
That makes me think higher of him.
Oh my God, he is. Look at this. This picture is crazy. Like, honestly, I don't know Jonathan
royalty.
But Jonathan Wasserman's cracking me up because, again, I have really not seen much tape. I've probably seen a highlight here or two. And, we're talking about your big, long, lanky shooter. And the first picture I pull up, and that's just, he looks like he's fucking 7 foot extended. Yeah, that's a lanky ass kid. What's his height?
Yeah, he does look like a deer as a human.
Oh my God, yeah. That is 6'10". Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Well, Ace Bailey is still going to be a lottery pick. He's still going to be a top 5 pick. No one's passing that talent. Yeah. No one's passing. It's also like the maturity thing is we're seeing it with Dion right now, or Shador right now. Maybe it's true with some guys, but oftentimes we have to remember these guys are going to have to be set up to fail in a way. Like, being young and rich and talented is not, and in the public eye like this is not easy, and you can't expect all of them to transition easy. And sometimes you hold on to them long enough to see them reach at least, in my opinion, at least the average age of a finals MVP before you trade them for other players and destroy your franchise and your fan base. Well, the Mavericks may be able to drop out altogether and get VJ Edgecombe from Baylor.
They've won too many games.
Yeah, it is tough. Actually, now I'm trying to spin the Anthony Davis redemption title next year's story.
I mean,
And I think I'm going to enjoy that one.
There is the 1% chance that team is healthy and they might actually be really good, but
I really kind of want him to come back just to be a dog for the even if it's just to play in and then get stomped in the first round. I would respect that. But I'm selfish because I really like Anthony Davis. I want him to succeed.
It'd be better for him just to wait for his own health, I would think. But I don't think it actually matters because it's just how many months until something else happens. But
the way I look at it is he should come back the week before. Those games don't matter that much anyway, unless they're completely done for by then, which is possible. Then obviously shut it down. But if you have to play in the play-in game, do it for the Mavs fans. They will love you so much if you just get them that play-in game, show them that little bit of love. It might be the last bit of life support that franchise has with the good graces of its fans. It might be on Anthony's shoulders.
I know I'm unnecessarily extending this, but conspiracy theory brain of the NBA at one point saw the Thunder had 3 future MVPs, and they were like, man, they just let them all go. So then all of a sudden they're like, oh, the Mavs have Brunson, KP, and Luka. Let's send them to the 3 biggest franchises we can.
Not necessarily bad, but it's just I can't go there with the KP thing. That one, KP is currently just not playing basketball because of an unknown illness.
That is a weird story that's being I don't know if that's just them doing a hockey bit or what.
I don't either, because it's Boston and Joe Mazzulla is MAGA, and he doesn't like the media. He doesn't think we deserve to know anything. He thinks we should. He thinks "Dude, trust me" is foreign policy.
All right, what do you know about VJ Edgecombe? I'm sorry.
VJ Edgecombe, Andrew Wiggins, Victor Oladipo, and Iman Shumpert. Yes. And Edgecombe. When's the last time you heard Edgecombe?
Never.
Green Mile. That's Tom Hanks's character in the Green Mile. Oh, it's also in the book. He's just Edgecombe. Paul Edgecombe, right? Or no, is he Edgecombe? Was it Green Mile main character?
Paul Edgecombe, you're right.
Yeah, Paul Edgecombe.
Well,
yeah, I read that book.
But he doesn't have the E on the end like this player does.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what's funny is I wrote it without the E on this one. Brain training. I haven't read that book in years.
It's an English name, so there's some probably things we don't want to know about his family line.
Oh, like why the guy that's in Denver wants to be Brown instead of Braun?
I don't know anything about that.
So the same Avalanche fan I was talking to, his last name is Braun, and he's like, "Look, some of us just don't want to admit the reality of history." And I'm like, "Damn, like fair enough. At least
I feel like that's probably a common enough name that it's like."
Well, but so the
like
mistress, yeah.
But like, if there was like a serial killer or a famous assassin named Smith, a bunch of people aren't just gonna start being like, "Oh, I gotta change this."
No, I mean, my exact joke was, "Why don't you just steal a bunch?" It could have been worse. You could have just gone and taken a bunch of indigenous land and built a bunch of wineries in Southwest Texas with it. Sorry, I got engaged there, so that's.
There you go.
There you go.
Full circle.
Yeah, Baylor, look, they're probably getting in, but apparently they don't. If they fuck up the Big 12 early, which I don't know when the Big 12 starts for them, maybe that's tonight. That's pretty much the only way I think they drop out, from what I understand. Baylor should be a lock to at least be in the tourney somewhere. They're not that good, but they should be. They've got good wins, and they've got a player that I do believe is really talented. This guy's kind of a two-way player. I just think it's funny that they went as hard as, and they went from Andrew Wiggins, who was Maple Jordan. We learned we learned him as Maple Jordan as a high school prospect. Okay,
is that his name?
That was the nickname that Andrew Wiggins got as a prospect. And then Victor Oladipo was incredible. He busted on the scene in his second year in Indiana. Then was a top pick. Didn't work out perfectly in the first stop. Ended up looking really good in Oklahoma City. Then he ended up being the face of the Pacers, and his body broke down. Iman Shumpert just got killed in his divorce. That's unrelated to basketball. Just felt like it was timely.
Had the best high flat top in the game for a while.
Oh, definitely. Tried to revive it himself single-handedly to no avail.
It worked. It worked on me. I wish I could do it.
It worked in 2K because every player would always just customarily have that cut for some reason. There's like everyone looks like Shump now.
Like Gerald on Hey Arnold.
Yeah. It'd be like White Boys. It looked like more like Brendan Fraser and Bedazzled or Bewitched or whatever.
Yeah, the next evolution was obviously Lonnie Walker the fourth, and it's too bad that didn't work out.
Or Alfred Payton with the can opener top that he literally admitted he couldn't see past.
That one's bad. I like Lonnie Walker's. I think Alfred Payton's was bad.
I just didn't understand. I guess style wise, it looked cool. I get where he was going. Like it was original. But I don't know why it's not better to tie it up. But I don't know. Not things.
Or just angle it out more.
Yeah, but
over when you're playing the game.
I always say like if I was playing hoops as a white dude, I would be buzz cut. That shit is so annoying to have your hair all up in your face and like it's just gonna look stupid anyway. JJ Redick always cracked me up with that little fucking just all the gel in the world, keeping that shit.
I played enough soccer that I figured out how to pull it back and use headbands properly.
Yeah, if you're a pull it back guy, you could. That's the only solution though. But you kind of have to grow your hair out a little bit for that. I feel like.
Yeah, that's true. Mine's usually at that length.
But yeah, so Baylor is it's a talented kid. I think it shows that he's a two-way guy. He's a guard and a forward right now, but given some of these prospects that they're comparing him to, it feels like Wasserman thinks he's a guard. And it seems like Wasserman thinks he can't shoot because of his range is Wiggins, Oladipo, and Shumpert. It's basically saying 1 out of 3 shot that he can actually shoot. That's how I'm reading that. That's how I'm taking it. But that's it. I mean, we will cover the March Madness more with this time allotted to the hoopla.
No love for DFW's own, Lake Highlands own, Trey Johnson.
Well, I don't think the Texas Longhorns are. What are their chances of being in the tournament?
They probably got to win a couple more games in the SEC tournament here.
Yeah, so that was basically why, is because he is that next tier of player, and I do think that maybe somebody's going to get lucky. But yeah, the Rutgers has 2 of them on the same team, and Duke has the best player and they're the best team, so that was easy. And then Baylor, I think, is an interesting basketball program. And I do think Edgecombe, I'd seen Edgecombe for a while, and he's kind of climbing up people's draft boards and maybe solidifying himself behind these guys solidly. So I think I just gave you
of course, played at Baylor.
He had to break Dad's heart, though.
Wow.
All right.
I was gonna talk trash, but Baylor's basketball has been really successful for a while now, so I can't talk any trash. So.
No, I used to say the same thing. What they did, dude. He got the job after someone murdered another player, and the coach helped cover it up, and he's helped turn them into a national powerhouse for 20 years.
We're still talking about Art Briles.
Yeah. No, dude, it's crazy. Like, no one will ever tell me that that's not one of the best coaches in college basketball history, because that's crazy. I know he's got booster money, but that's crazy.
They're phenomenal, and I hate it. And their women are really good, too. Also hate that.
Yeah, they have taken a step back. Kim Mulkey was a dominant force at her prime, for sure. All right. It's time to talk about spending rich people's money.
I've got like 60 more seconds left before I close this one. Let's see if there's anyone else. Kasparis Jakučionis.
Yeah, I saw him being highly rated in some people's mocks, and others had him kind of slipping back.
A lot of people have him going to the Spurs that I've seen. That's what I was asking.
You also need to look up the Denham kid from BYU. He was supposed to be one of the top 5 players. He shot like shit apparently, and he's fallen in the draft process quite a bit as well. And that's totally a Spurs thing to do if they end up having a shit pick and keeping it.
The NBA.com mock draft has the Spurs drafting the Lithuanian guy, a French guy, just no one from the U.S.
And I think that's Wasserman who does that. Yeah, and so he's a good resource, I would say. I'm pro Jonathan Wasserman. He's got a good track record.
All right, that's gonna wrap up basketball part 3, or if you decided to watch these out of order, another part that's not this one. NFL
Or
free
if
agency.
somehow you end up clipping all the college rants and putting those in a separate thing, and then you as the viewer end up following us into the big pod. I don't know how we got there either, but welcome to this.
Well,
The rest of the content's nothing like that. What you saw. Sorry.
yeah.
Here
We don't talk about furs and brownies that often.